you've been following the hints that we've been putting on the Discord and Twitter, you know that something's brewing at Interlay, something very revolutionary. Today, we have Alexei and Dom, the two co-founders at Interlay, and we have a lot to share with you. We have something really awesome that we've been building for such a long time, and we can't wait to get it started. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or in the Q&A section board on the Chromecast section. Yeah, over to you, Alexei.
Hey everyone, I'm Alexei. Most of you probably know me. And yeah, I'll dive right in. So why are we here today? We're here today to start this new era of Bitcoin DeFi. And what I'll do now is I'll just give a quick introduction of why Bitcoin is important, the state of building on Bitcoin right now, and then hand over to Dom to showcase the new Interlay Bitcoin DeFi Hub. So, Bitcoin has over 300 million users, right? Or between 100 and 300 million, depending you ask. And the most important fact is it's growing faster than the internet. There is one issue, right? While Bitcoin leads the charge for mass adoption and has been adopted by various industries and has penetrated different sectors ranging from finance, department stores, and even governance, there is an issue because all of the new innovations, all of the new cool things that we have in crypto today, ranging from DeFi, DAOs, NFTs, identity, even maybe one day e-voting, they all happen outside of the Bitcoin ecosystem. They are built on Ethereum, on Polkadot, and Cosmos. And it is quite a controversy, right? That to use Bitcoin for anything else than payments, you have to go to a centralized exchange. The goal that we as Interlay are pursuing is to really achieve global adoption and help Bitcoin reach the masses by merging and combining push towards adoption that Bitcoin is having today with its political power and its positioning on the global arena and the innovation that you see coming out of these new DeFi protocols. Now, if you want to build on Bitcoin today, you can't really do that quite easily. And that's why DeFi on Bitcoin does not really exist in this form. There are a few newer things coming out, but it's very limited at the moment, unfortunately. And the reason is that on Bitcoin, we don't have smart contracts and we have limited scalability, right? You cannot really construct a decentralized exchange or Lightning protocol directly on the Bitcoin blockchain, and waiting 10 minutes for processing every transaction is very slow. BRC20s, RGB colored coins, really this new push towards representing your assets on Bitcoin is super interesting. It can be used for NFTs. But again, this does not give us smart contracts, and the scalability is still quite limited, as we've seen recently when people were trying to mint all these BRC20 tokens or ordinals and essentially flooding Bitcoin's transactions. Lightning Network is a great innovation that focuses on payments and tries to make instant payments possible with Bitcoin. But again, it focuses on payments only, but unfortunately today it's also quite hard to use. And that's why 90% of Lightning Network usage is actually done through a custodial wallets, which somewhat defeats its purposes. We've had quite a few sidechain projects go live over the past years. And the challenge there is that while they do enable programmability for Bitcoin, they all still unfortunately rely on centralized bridges. And the argument here is if your bridge is CeFi, then it isn't really Bitcoin DeFi, right? And the other challenge that we've seen these kind of sidechains facing is that they're quite isolated from the entire DeFi ecosystem on Ethereum, on Cosmos, Avalanche, Polkadot, which kind of hinders growth and adoption in the Web3 space. And last but not least, Ethereum L2s, right? Or Ethereum itself, of course. Definitely there is a lot of demand. We've seen WBTC become the main way to use Bitcoin in DeFi, but again, that is a centralized bridge. And even though it's been operating quite well so far, and obviously Bitcoin is a reputable company, it still is centralized, and you still, have to go back to these traditional financial models, which we're all here to change. And this is why building on Bitcoin today mainly focuses on centralized financial products or trying to build wallets and custody. But there is very little or no DeFi at all, at least no true Bitcoin DeFi. The demand is very high, right? At its peak, there have been 400,000 Bitcoin minted onto Ethereum. At its peak, that was around $9 billion. Today, it's around $4.8 billion worth of BTC on worth of BTC on Ethereum. But again, all of it is centralized, and that's what we're here to change at Interlay. And our goal is really to starting with this decentralized Bitcoin bridge that we've built over the past years, and now releasing this new DeFi layer, then continue expanding and create a Bitcoin innovations platform where new applications and new things can be built, and also people can really use Bitcoin for decentralized financial products. And now handing over to Dom for long-awaited live demo.
Hello, everyone. Very nice to meet you as well. I'm Dom, the other co-founder, and I guess everybody been waiting very patiently and eagerly for the demo, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time talking about other things rather than actually showing the demo. And let me get the right screen up. Go. Should be coming any second now. All right. Cool. All right. As you may have seen, the new UI is up and running on app.interlay.io. And if you are a very first-time user, but you still already have like a couple wallets installed, you will roughly see something like this. So that's like the welcome page. If you're a very first user, we have now a little get it started tutorial. So you can just click on the tutorial. It will ask you to install the wallet, which in this case I already done. And then I would go and select one of the wallets. So let's just go with Talisman. Select an account here, and well, magically I already signed the terms and conditions beforehand, but normally it would ask you to sign terms and conditions. I already also have a couple of if you are a very first time user via this link, you can join our Discord, and there's now a faucet channel in the Discord that should give you 5 to get started, so you can try out the product and just go explore. And otherwise, we can start the tutorial here. But instead of this being a remote tutorial, I'm kind of giving the tutorial today. All right, cool. So let's head over to the wallet page. So now that I have the account set up, you can see there's a bunch of assets in here, and I did a lot of stuff. So this is the new wallet page. If you guys been on Kintsugi before, you will kind of know this wallet page, but if you haven't seen it before, this will be basically your hub, your overview. All the assets that you have on the Interlay chain will be visible here. So these are your available assets that are free to transfer around. I already have a couple of lending positions, liquidity pools, and a couple of staked Inter. I'll go into that detail a bit later, but basically you will use this page quite a bit if you just want to have a quick overview of what's been happening with your assets. All right, then let's go on a little journey to get some Bitcoin and do a Bitcoin DeFi Hub thing. Now you can go to this IBTC side tab, and this will give you the opportunity to bridge over some Bitcoin to the Interlay chain. As you can see, I already made like 3 requests, and 1 is currently ongoing. But let's just showcase this, and let's get another $15 of Bitcoin over. So I would just enter this here. There's cool new features that we have in store, apart from just Bitcoin bridging, right? This has been possible before, but now you can, there's a little security deposit that you have to pay. You can now choose to actually deposit that with other tokens, and fees have now been changed to bring your own fees. So you can just use DOT or IBTC or Inter or USDT to pay for your fees. In this case, I'm just going to put Inter as the fee token, but we could obviously also use just, maybe let's, for the fun of it, let's just use DOT. Interesting, live demo. Okay, let's go with, let's stay with Inter then, and don't mess around with that so much. All right. What will happen now is basically I get a pop-up that I think you can't see from Talisman to approve that transaction, which I just did. And now there will be a request sent to a vault, and then I will have to do the Bitcoin transaction as a next step, and that would be basically your on-ramp to get started in the DeFi Hub directly from Bitcoin. There's also obviously other options if we look at the docs to get other assets over. So if you would navigate back to the wallet page, there's now guides linked how to get like DOT or USDT onto the platform as well. What happens here now in the background is that we're waiting basically for Interlay and Polkadot blocks to finalize to make sure that we are not on any sort of fork, and make sure that we have a correct vault selected. Now I can send actually the Bitcoin transaction, which I will do right now. So I have a little bit of Bitcoin in a Ledger wallet, and I'm gonna copy that address here. This is again a bit outside of the wallet, but I'm just gonna copy the amount here, and then gonna make a transaction on my ledger. And I need to unlock a ledger. But the nice thing about this is that you can easily, use Ledger and hardware wallets to interact on the Bitcoin side. And just need to make sure I enter the right PIN, and talking and entering the right PIN at the same time is difficult for me. Sorry. All right, there we go. And now we go to Bitcoin and send the transaction. All right. Cool. So now that I made this payment, it will take a little bit of time for the transaction to show up here, but I made one right before this just to show you how it looks like when the transaction is pending. So here, there's already a couple of Bitcoin confirmations next to this, and that will basically show you how it looks like while the transaction is processing. Since this is a fully decentralized network, we need to wait for the transaction confirmations to process so that there's no issues basically with finality of the transactions. But basically that's it. On the redeem side, you would do exactly the same. So when you do a redeem, so you want to go back to Bitcoin, you would just select an amount of Bitcoin here, and then you would give it a Bitcoin address. Can be your ledger, can be a hot wallet, whatever you have, and then set it here. And now we can see that actually on the issue request that I just did, now it found the Bitcoin transaction, and now this is also in pending. Cool. All right. Then on the transfer side and the bridge, this is basically XEM. Nothing much has changed here, apart that you can use different transaction fees. So not going to go into that detail right now, but rather going to focus a little bit on the new stuff. So lending. Now you can lend and borrow assets here. What we're going to do now, you can already see I have a couple of lend positions. If you were a very new user, then you would see it slightly different in a way that you would just see the pools. So this is what you see when you're a first-time user. So nothing's yet in your assets. But let's actually use a wallet that has some stuff in it. And what we're going to do now is I bridged over some Bitcoin before, right? And let's actually lend out some of that Bitcoin to the protocol. What that does is it locks the IBTC that was bridged. over in the lending protocol, and then there's two options. So other people can borrow against it, which would give you basically access to the borrow fees that those users would pay. And the second thing that you can do is you can use this asset to borrow other asset, and you can use it as a collateral asset. And this is what we're going to do now. So we're going to use this IBTC, the 0.0.1 IBTC that I'm supplying here, and it will pop up here. I will then flag it as collateral asset. So that will basically tell the system, hey, you can totally use this as a collateral, and I want to borrow against it. There might be cases where you would want to, for example, borrow against IBTC, get some USDT, and then swap that maybe for more IBTC or something like that. Whatever you kind of want to do, and combine in that transaction. All right, cool. So this is now enabled as a collateral, and then let's say we would want to actually borrow some USDT. So let's just borrow $5. What you can see here is your loan to value ratio, and this will give you an indication of how risky your position is. So if I just borrow like $5, it's absolutely no problem. But if I were try to borrow $500 worth of USDT, that the system doesn't allow me that because my loan to value ratio is way too high. But yeah, so with 5, we're good. And let's quickly borrow something, and then we can be happy to have 5 new USDT. What will happen now is that, so basically as we borrow that from the available liquidity, a counter will also start on my side. So this USDT will need to be paid back, but with interest. So borrowing isn't free, but it's there's a small there's a borrow fee depending on the market essentially, and right now it's about 10%, which is actually high. Good. All right. And then swaps. I think this is something that's very like trivial, but I'm just going to do a little mini swap here and swap some dot for some USDT. This is, I think, pretty standard. Under the hoods, this is a Uniswap v2 design market, and you can just swap assets in here, and that's really all it does. You can, there's some, I know I can't see that, but technically there's some custom option that you can set in terms of slippage as well, and that should help you, setting some individual parameters if you want to. Cool, and then let's go to the last part. Those are the pools. So as you can see, I already supplied in pretty much all of these pools that we have. So we have an IBTC USDT pool right now, .ibtc, and an Inter USDT pool. And what you can see here is you could add new liquidity. For example, let's say I want to add some more IBTC and USDT, then I could add that and become an LP. And an LP does two things. So they provide liquidity for swaps, and then the LPs get, while this liquidity program is running, they're getting Inter, plus they're getting the fees that occur from people swapping. But to make fees very competitive right now, the fees are set to 0 on the LP pools. I think that is what the governance proposal did. So it's very cheap, like at least fee-wise, to set that. And yeah, that's how you become a liquidity provider. Essentially, you just add some liquidity. While the transaction is confirming, I guess this is another interesting kind of new thing. We have this spinner, like it takes a tad bit of time because we're waiting for block finality, but you can now also, there's directly a link to Subscan now for these transactions. So every time something you make a transaction, there's now a direct link to Subscan if you need to have access to that link. And yeah, those are the kind of key highlights of the new DeFi Hub. Some small things that we have as well is obviously staking. That's been live for quite a while, so that's still the same. And if you go up here, you will also see now a recent transaction history. So you can, and if you click on that, you get the link to Subscan, so you can see what you did in the past. And yeah, try it out. Let us know on Discord if there's any issues. This just launched, and we are very happy to help. One last minute addition that we also made, you can now use the Parity Signer and Polkadot.js together. So you can use the Polkadot Vault hardware wallet if you have that. So if you want to use Interlay with the hardware wallet, like Polkadot Vault works. And that's it from my side. And I guess I'm going to give back to Pankaj. Did we lose Pankaj?
I think we may have just lost Pankaj. Yeah, it seems to have some connection issues.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I think we've covered the demo. I'm not sure if there's any questions. I was gonna let me check on Twitter. There were some, I think, but otherwise, Dom, I think it's always helpful to just reiterate kind of why we call this true Bitcoin DeFi and how this differs from, let's say, using wrapped Bitcoin in the form of WBTC on Ethereum. I think it's always helpful to highlight the core kind of trustlessness of the system.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So as most bridges are centralized, ours isn't. So we built it in a way that everybody can be this middleman in the bridge. So it's entirely permissionless. Everybody can become this vault by providing collateral. And optionally, you would also run a client that automates a bunch of these actions. But if you compare it to wrapped.btc or even TBTC, who are much closer to being towards decentralization, none of these have you still need to have some sort of buy-in to actually be part of that system. Whereas in ours, you just literally, you don't need to ask anyone to be part of the bridge infrastructure. And I think that's a really cool achievement. Also, thanks to the power of Rust and Substrate, helps us to build these things quite nicely.
And on top of this decentralized layer of vaults where anyone in this call, on Twitter, whoever just comes to this link, for example, can read up how to spin up a vault. It's pretty straightforward. That thing is actually also pretty lightweight, so it's not as heavy as some validation nodes. You can run it on a very lightweight machine. And what it does essentially, it will track the state of the Interlay chain. It will track what's going on Bitcoin and make sure that it automates the payouts of BTC back to users when they want to get out. And what you do as a vault operator is you lock up collateral, right? So you provide collateral in a basket of different assets, and this collateral ensures users against theft. If you steal or lose the user's Bitcoin, the user will claim your collateral. That's what really makes this bridge so secure, because it's based on an economic security model. And because we don't want to ask anyone whether transactions were being actually made, we don't want to trust the centralized oracle. The Interlay network has a BTC Lite client built into the chain. So the Interlay network knows everything about Bitcoin, every single block header, and can verify every single transaction. So this means that if, from a user's perspective, if your redeem request fails and a vault misbehaves, you can be certain that you'll be reimbursed, and the Interlay system will know that something is wrong. And that's essentially, this construction is really what makes the network so secure. One of the challenges, obviously, that has always been raised around these collateral bridge models is, capital efficiency, like vaults need to lock up collateral. This competes with the DeFi protocols. And now with the launch of the Interlay DeFi Hub, we've been able to solve this problem more or less, because you'll be able to do two things as a vault. You'll be able to use liquid staking, DOT, and hopefully soon other liquid staking assets as collateral. This means you don't compete with the native staking rewards, but you can do both. You can stake, earn staking rewards, and secure the bridge and earn bridge fees. And at the same time, enabled by the lending protocol on Interlay now, vaults that supply stablecoins as collateral can also lend these stablecoins out and earn interest on them from the lending market. So you basically have these different ways of how to reuse the capital of your vault, which makes this much more capital efficient. I see we have a question in the chat. When you're bridging from BTC to Interlay, can the amount for the security deposit be some staked Inter? At the moment, no, but this is actually a very good point. Definitely something to consider for the future. And yeah, we'll definitely look into this. That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I think
I
there's
see another
also
one. Yeah, go ahead, Dom.
the risk of using a premium redeem. There's a risk that the vault will actually not send you the Bitcoin, but that risk is relatively low. So if the vault doesn't do that, you will still be reimbursed in whatever the vault has as collateral. And vaults that are below a liquidation, so we basically have a secure threshold and a liquidation threshold, and then in between is this premium redeem. So before your vault would get liquidated, before a vault would never return the Bitcoin, like they get liquidated and all their collateral is taken. So there's some extra risk, but it's relatively low. Nice. Does anyone else have questions? Write them in the chat. Maybe until then, Alexei, what's like the feature you're most excited about that we launched now to help improve usability of the app?
Definitely think that the bring your own fees model will significantly improve usability, right? So you don't need to figure out how to get the native underlying asset, but you can use USDT, DOTs, IBTC to pay for fees. And that was always the goal, right? If you have Bitcoin, you should be able to use the Interlay DeFi Hub and the Interlay platform. Right now, there is still potentially a slight, teeny tiny kind of UX pain point on the bridging side, because there's a security deposit that is necessary to protect vaults. We're working on a solution to really make this process of on-ramping from Bitcoin into Interlay super smooth. But I think like what we already have launched here now is a massive improvement. And there's like a few other projects that have been starting to really push for this bring your own fee model, notably Hydra DX as well. And I think this is the future, right? Like the number one problem that on the UX side that people have told me about over the past year, and I've been asking lots of questions, right, to all sorts of DeFi users. And the number one problem was like getting the gas token. You always have to figure out, where do I get this? I have to go to a centralized exchange, and that's a big pain point. And I think we've been able to get rid of this issue. Quite excited about that. Yourself? Asking the question back.
For me, I guess it's also the wallet page that you now have an overview of all of your assets and the onboarding tutorial that kind of guides you through installing the wallet. That makes me excited.
I can see there's a question about use cases for staked Inter in the future. So the question is, will there be more use cases available for staked Inter? That's a good question. You see that the thing is that the way that Interlay staking is designed, it protects against liquid staking, because liquid staking, while it is nice because it gives this liquid token and you can use it, the Interlay network is still small, and it's important to really make sure it grows in a decentralized manner. And we don't want like one liquid staking provider to start amassing a lot of stake. So for now, well, it's really kind of protected. It's not really, you can probably figure out a way how to do it, right? If you have one, but you have to go through lots of hurdles to really make it into like liquid staking. use cases for Interhyper that we're looking into there's a few different options, right? They're not live right now, and this is something that the community would have to vote on and discuss. Ideas range from, having lower fees, for example, for power users who are big interest takers, having some better access, like to liquidations, or like having better liquidation rates or something like that. The things that you also see on some exchanges today. And then on the other hand, looking at like vault infrastructure, we've been working, and those who run vaults are already aware of this, right? We've been working on delegations so that you can delegate collateral to vaults you trust. And obviously, having staked increases the trust factor, right? It will indicate that this vault actually has a long-term stake in the system, and that it's more trustworthy than someone completely new who you've never seen before. And there might be some priority given to vaults that have like a staked Inter. Again, these are all ideas and suggestions, and will have to be discussed in the forums. But definitely, like, the goal is, as we build out this platform, to assign kind of new use cases for people who are really kind of actively participating in the system, and also to increase like kind of utility of the assets.
Okay, sorry about the technical problem there. I'm back. And I've got a question from the Discord channel. What can we expect from the strategies tab feature on the DeFi Hub?
Well, quite a few things, actually. So one of the, as Dom already mentioned in the demo, right, you can combine DEX and lending. And one of the things that we've been working on is Bitcoin staking. We did not manage to get it live for right now, because we need some more liquidity and some better integrations with liquid staking solutions. And we're actively working with the Bifrost team and exploring other kind of routes to make that product available. But for example, one of the things that we really like is, well, stake your Bitcoin to participate in dot staking. And that kind of is one possible strategy. And then there's quite a few more. Dom has been working with the dev team and the UX team on like unlocking a few new possibilities, like long, short, and other strategies be added quite quickly. And then, of course, anyone can use the APIs. So the APIs are quite well defined, and you can really easily combine things and either make your own UI or make a pull request to the user interface. And we're working to make like building on Interlay even easier in the future. And those of you who've seen the talk last week at Decoder probably know that we're working on actually enabling everyone to not only use but actually build on top of the platform.
Right, awesome. And I've got another question from our Discord channel. So they're asking, when can they expect the IBTC staking product? And I'm sure this is someone who's been watching us on Twitter and the governance forums. So yeah, what do you have to say to that?
Soon, hopefully. All right, so we are working on it. I'm not exactly sure when we will be launching it. I mean, it's going to launch for sure this year, but I don't know exactly when. There's some kind of blockers to get out of the way to make sure that it's properly decentralized, and it's going to be a collaboration with another parachain team as well. So there's some new cool XCM stuff that we're working on to make all of that possible, and that been taking a bit longer than we anticipated. But we rather want to build something that's very nice and proper, rather than rushing it out. But yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look out for. Yeah, so I think that's about it. If we don't have any more questions, you can always ask your questions in Discord or Telegram, or write to us on Twitter. We have some really awesome news coming up. I'm sorry, I just can't share it on the live demo, but it's worth the wait. We have something very big that we'll be announcing very soon. Yeah, thank you, Alexei. Thank you, Dom. The DeFi Hub is there. You saw the demo. We're going to be recording this session and uploading on YouTube for those who were not able to join it today. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Thank you, Alexei. Thank you, Dom. See you around.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.